Hey, welcome back to the Colts Corral. I'm your host, Brian Bibey, and today we have a very special guest, Tony Baisi, a proud 1993 alum, Philip Barbour High School, and a member of the historic 1991 Colts football team. That's the first in school history. That team was the first in school history to win the Big Ten Conference title and to make the West Virginia State playoffs. And I had the opportunity to go to school with a lot of those guys, including Tony. I was a senior in 90. Tony would have been a freshman that year. So I got a chance. I didn't play football, Tony, but I got a chance to play baseball and basketball with some of the guys that you grew up with playing, and were on that team. And I can tell you, as far as I'm concerned, one of the most talented groups of athletes to ever come through that school. And I know you and I have talked about that a lot over the years, and wanted to talk about today. We're in the playoffs again, and so we wanted to bring this up. And Tony and I have been kind of kicking it around, and we're looking forward to having a great conversation, have some fun along the way. So I wanted to tell y'all, Tony also worked as a sports reporter, if you didn't know that, and he did that for a long time. And Tony remains one of the biggest supporters of Colts athletics. I've seen him throughout my career at Philip Barbour and my son's career and others. And I can't thank Tony enough for all the things that he's done over the years for all the student athletes at Philip Barbour and other schools around the area for that matter. So I want to talk to Tony. Today, we're going to talk about that legendary 91 team. We're going to talk about Tony's passion for the Colts, sports, and have some fun, like I said. So, Tony, welcome, man.
Thanks, Brian. Good to be here, buddy.
Absolutely. I'm going to break this up into some segments here, but I want to start out by talking about the 1991 team. That just was, in my opinion, one of the best teams that ever graced the George Beyer Field there at Philip Barbour High School. You were part of that team. Let's hit the time machine, man. Let's go back to 1991, okay? I believe, you were a junior on that 91 team. What made that team so special?
Well, I do want to point out, too, unless I'm mistaken, I believe that still is the only Big Ten Conference championship in football for Philip Barbour. But that particular team, you'll see me looking down here, got some notes, but we came into camp that summer, that August, with the high expectations coming off of a 7-3 campaign just the year before on the 90 squad. And we had some big wins that year before that gave us the best record in 26 years at Philip Barbour. And one of the biggest things we had going for us, though, for that 91 squad coming into camp is an extremely experienced group of seniors, especially experienced seniors at the skilled positions. And, coming in, that's some of the things that made it special. Of course, the high-powered running attack with J.J. Johnson. Everyone that knows anything about that time period in football knows all about that. And one thing I didn't even really realize it till last night when I was kind of reminiscing, going back through the scores and the yearbook and stuff. That 91 team that eventually finished 7-4 after going to the playoffs and falling in the first round against Brooke there, I've noticed last night we were actually 2-3 at 5 games through the season. So we had a losing record after 5 games. And then we turned around and ripped 5 in a row off, and, the rest is history, as they say. Just a real special group of guys.
Let's point this out too, Tony. Back then, there was probably 1,100 students at Philip Barbour. We were playing Class AAA football too.
That's true.
The schedule that you guys had, I remember going to Parkersburg and watching your opening game. You lost 7-6, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct. A lot of big hitters there.
Absolutely, that whole schedule was packed. It was just absolutely packed. So, I think it just makes things even more special for you guys. Well, what do you remember most about winning that Big Ten Conference title?
Well, I have some cool notes about that too. I was writing them down on break today at work. And, of course, just winning the conference championship was a huge thing, but being able to go on the road and do it against University High School on their own field, it was just great. I think they got up 8-0, and then we just put the hammer down and went on to win 28-8, and just shut the Hawks down there. And really, I believe wholeheartedly that was the first time we'd ever got or that team at least, we'd ever played on artificial surface. So some of the boosters and the coaches, probably Linda Sandusky had something to do with it. They arranged for us to get bussed up to Morgantown the day before on Thursday and practice at Mountaineer Field that day to kind of get our feet wet on the turf. And man, it wasn't your typical Thursday practice like a walkthrough. It was full contact. People were laying the wood on each other, just hitting each other. I mean, once we sorted through all the boxes of shoes just to get our turf shoes on, they turned us loose to run our laps. And it wasn't like trotting around George Byer on a regular old Thursday afternoon. I mean, we came firing out of that visitor's locker room, and we ran some hot laps, and then we got after it. And I just think that momentum from that practice just carried right over into Friday night's game, and we never looked back. I mean, the seniors, the defense, people were out there hitting, some one-handed catches going on, and just a full-on effort that was, I mean, the memories were great. I mean, our crowd, of course, followed us up there. I mean, just a heck of a great game and a good victory.
Yeah, no doubt about that, man. I remember that day well. How did it feel to make the state playoffs for the first time in school history?
That was obviously, also, a great experience to be the first team to get in the playoffs. And, it's been 30 some years, so I can't remember exactly everything, but just, how it is for a high school kid and, when spirits are high and something like that, and just feeling the vibe in the school, in the classroom, in the hallways, your peers, patting you on the back, and then feeling the vibe and the buzz in the community. Of course, we had great community support. And then we got to take our second chartered bus ride of the year. For a kid from Barbour County hopping on a chartered bus, that's a big deal. They chartered us out to Parkersburg. That was a road trip. But then they chartered us up to Brook, stayed in a hotel, got to have a couple nice meals. And, things didn't turn out the way we wanted it to on the field the next day. But still just an outstanding memory. And, again, the community, they followed us up there, packed our side of the stands. And just, just something you look back on in a lifetime and just fortunate to be part of it.
Well, and like you said, Tony, I mean, something now we're kind of taking it for granted, and we shouldn't, but we're taking it for granted what success these young men and this coaching staff have had over the last 3 years now. When I look back on, I was obviously gone. I'd already graduated in 90, but I was a freshman at WVU, maybe even a sophomore at that point in time. I can't actually remember now. It's been so long. But I remember going to your guys' playoff game. I got with old Big Steve Red and Greg Mauser and Mike Cheveco and guys. We just got in a van and went on up to Brook to watch you guys. I mean, that's how important it was for the community. And I remember packing those stands up there, and supporting you guys. And it was a great experience, and you hope that you'd have more of that throughout our seasons at Philip Barbour. And this. I mean, we've had some good years. It just seemed like they come in spurts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now we're at a point now where we can look at this program and say, we believe they're here to stay, and what they're doing now is pretty awesome.
Yes, it is. Yes.
What?
Yeah.
I want to talk some more about the guys on the team. A lot of those guys are some of our close friends to this day. And give me some key players and personalities on that team.
Okay. Well, I wrote them down today. I mean, I'll look down, but of course I remember these guys. I don't have to look in the yearbook to remember who they are. But you got to mention J.J. Johnson, and but J.J. I've talked to him over the years. Humble. He'll be one of the first ones to tell you. It wasn't possible without everybody else around him. So he'll always tell you that. But then we had Curtis Balkins there at quarterback, Big Mike Mullins down there in the trenches for us on both sides of the ball. Josh Halfin and Bobby Clifton, our split outs, our wide receivers on offense. And of course, the core of our defensive backfield, along with Todd Gaynor back there in the backfield. You got Andy McCauley and John Stout running around on defense at linebackers. But John and Andy both also, offensive guys, plugged in utility-wise whenever we needed them to. Kerry Kincaid, Mike DeLauder on the line there, and Scott Sublett, one of my best buddies back in those days, used to ride to practice back and forth with him a lot. And, just a lot of guys there. I might have missed one or two. I'm sorry if I did, but, there's your core of them. And, I can think back, and I got a story about every one of them, I'm sure, if I just sit down and think just for a few minutes. But, yeah, great group of guys and great leadership, because the experience that they had and the talent that they had, they really put the team on the shoulders and carried us.
Well, and along to your point, I mean, again, I did not play football, but when I played with those guys in basketball and baseball, one thing I knew, those guys were winners, and that they busted their tail as underclassmen, and they started. A lot of those guys started as underclassmen in baseball, basketball, certainly, and they were so athletic, and they made the upperclassmen better, And so we're watching these guys grow right in front of us, and I said, man, if I'd had a couple more years with those guys, you wonder. But I was the amount of talent that you just listed, and there's guys that we didn't even get a chance to mention on that team, unreal, quite frankly, unreal. So let me ask you a last question about that 91 team, Tony, before we jump into something else. What was your favorite game or moment that still sticks with you today about that team?
Well, I saw that question you sent earlier, and certainly a lot of plays and situations and games to pick from. But, from a personal level, I got to say, at Lincoln that year when we played at Lincoln, I played on the defensive line. My junior year, they just had me at tackle most of the time. We had some faster guys that they would put out on the ends. I didn't get to play end until my senior year. But anyway, I'd been beating my guy pretty regularly and getting to their quarterback, not sacking him every time or anything, but getting pressure on him, some pass deflections, getting him on the ground a couple times. And so anyway, this kid that I'm playing against, when it's their turn to punt, I'm noticing that, it's me and him again, and they're lining up with these huge gaps, in between the down linemen. And so it's like the probably third, maybe fourth time they're punting, because our defense, of course, is playing lights out against the Cougars. And I look at that gap, and I'm like, doggone it, I'm going to try it. And so I beat him, and I got through that gap, and next thing you know, I'm laying out, blocked that punt, and then I caught a big catch later in the game that wasn't consequential to the outcome. Offensively, I was second string, but, I got a pass across the middle. But blocking that punt over there, is one of the most outstanding plays I ever made personally in my high school career. So I would say that's my play.
Well, and 30 years later, I mean, it's just the one that sticks out, right? I mean, those are the memories that these young men on this current roster are making. And
Yeah.
I tell them all the time when I do talk to them, guys, I promise you, when you're our age, you're upper mid 50s, you're going to look back on these days and say they're the best days of your life, So, and I appreciate you providing that context there. So that really means something.
Yeah.
Tony, I want to talk about your passion for Colts athletics, because like I said earlier in the opening, you've been around these programs, not one, all of the programs for a long time in different forms, fashions. Your job certainly back in the day was covering Philip Barbour sports. You've stayed connected to the Philip Barbour sports for decades. Why does this program mean so much to you?
Well, obviously, football is the one that is near and dearest to my heart. And, I love, I appreciate and love all athletics. I grew up playing all kinds of sports, but, football happened to be the one that I eventually funneled into and excelled at somewhat and had some success. But, what keeps this program special to me, the Philip Barbour football program, when you grow up in Barbour County and you play Pop Warner, then you play middle school, and you go ahead and you get a sniff around and play some games at George Bauer Field. You see the high school boys here and there, and you get to use their home locker room on Sundays for your Pop Warner game, and then midweek for middle school games. And so the whole time you're kind of you're trucking along. I can't wait to be a Colt. I can't wait to be a Colt. That's where I want to get. And then you play 4 years of high school football, and you come out every August and you sweat through those hot two-a-days, all the getting back in shape and everything. And And then you start getting your wind and the helmets and the shorts, and then you get a practice in the pads, and then you just start getting bored, and you're like, when are we going to start hitting each other? When do we get to start beating on each other a little bit? And next thing you know, you look back after 4 years or something like that, and realize you miss it so bad. And I mean, honestly, I still have dreams about it sometimes, like missing the bus or showing up late for a game, and just this crazy stuff.
Sure.
But so you spend enough time out there, it becomes part of you for the rest of your life, and that's probably best explanation for why it means so much to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you this question. How has the game changed since your playing days?
There's been a good number of changes, I would say. Probably the speed of the game, at least, from my experience, things in certain fashions are moving faster. A lot more of the no huddle, a lot more of the just line up and go, more formations, not that there haven't been coaches for years and years and years doing these things here and there, but just how it's become more commonplace and more, the norm, so to speak. And, a fair number of changes in rules as far as player safety, which I'm a proponent of a lot of the player safety rules, the way that the horse collaring and the tackling from behind and the blindside blocks and things like that. We got to protect people, especially student athletes, people that are not even playing in high money Division I or NFL football. So I'm all for that. So some of that, the formations, the speed of the game, probably some of the philosophy, but by and large, it still is the same. Let's get the ball across the goal line. Let's stop the other team from doing that. So,
yeah. It's still mano a mano, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's you're opposing your willpower on another individual.
Yes,
you have to win that battle. Well, what's your perspective on this current Colts football team and the successes that they've been having?
I think it's absolutely awesome. In the past 2 or 3 years, and then a few years before that, even when we had that 8-2 year with Hunter Mason and Chase Collier and those guys, and they got into the playoffs there. But this current squad, just I got to be quite honest. I haven't seen this year's team play in person. I depend on you and Jeff or Mason and Rick the Magic Man to bring me the action on Friday evenings, and I enjoy just kicking back and listening to the game. And I can, when you guys are playing at home, especially, I can envision, because you're always telling me what direction they're going, which end zone's what, Billington, Philip, so I can always imagine it in my head. But anyway, this team and this program, I think it's just great what they're doing. Their commitment, the commitment to the weight room in the off season, just the commitment to, I have a high belief. I'm not there to see it. I just feel like I understand and know it. These young men are being, they're being taught the right way. They're being taught good leadership. They're being taught good values, on and off the field. They're, because that's as much as an important part of any high school sport you're going to play, is for you to also be learning life skills and toughness for life along the way, because long after you hang up the cleats and the helmet and the shoulder pads, you're still going to have adversity, and you'll be able to reach back in your toolkit and take things that you learned from your coaches and from your experiences and apply them to everyday real life to get through the battle every day. Yeah. And so just to finish that off, easy, just right? Right. Yeah, it's not easy. And I believe that Coach Maley and all of these other coaches, the boosters, the parents, the players, most importantly, I mean, they are bought in. They are bought into a philosophy and a commitment, and it takes it year in and year out. And I just hope the kids keep coming up from the younger groups, because that's high school sports for you. Kids graduate, so it's next man up.
That's right. Good insight. Hey, you covered that sport as a reporter. Okay. I want to pick your brain a little bit. What was that experience like compared to being a player? Can you give a little bit of blurb about that?
Yeah. It was It was very enjoyable. I definitely say, that there wasn't like a future in retirement in it for me or anything, but I appreciate the Elkins Intermountain and Ben Simmons, especially my buddy. He's the one that got me on up there, and I needed a job at that point in time, and so Ben got me on, and so it was the most enjoyable job that I ever had. So, but being able to see the game of football and other sports, going out and reporting from a different perspective, and at an older age, it was really awesome. And especially in football, to be able to just kind of be on the sidelines with a camera and writing down some notes, but at the same time, just watching the young people, whether it be the players,
Yeah.
the man, the sports managers, things like that, and watching the coaches. And I spent a fair amount of time on the visitors' sidelines a lot of times at Philip Barbour because I could get better pictures from over there, for the sun and stuff like that. And so, it was always just kind of cool to just watch, how this coach and his coaches would talk to this team and how that team would react. And, it was always fun for me too on the visitors' sideline, like when Philip Barbour would do something good, just to be able to just kind of stand over there and watch the other team suffer, a little bit.
No doubt.
But
No doubt.
yeah, but another cool thing about covering football, especially, was a lot of the road games I got to go to. Got to go and hang out and be on some sidelines at fields that I'd played on when I was younger, and see how things had changed or maybe not changed so much, and see some newer facilities that weren't there when I played. Like when I played Lewis County, we still played downtown there behind Robert L. Bland because that's where the high school was and everything. Now they got that field up on top of the hill there, and just different facility. That's just one example.
Well, let's talk about that real quick. That brings up another question that I have for you. I mean, you played on the old George Beyer Field. You saw how bad it got.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thoughts about this new facility and these kids getting to think about what they would have had to do if they'd have played when we played and played on those fields? I just want to get your thoughts on Freedom Bank Park, which was formerly BC Bank Park, George Beyer Field. Tell me about that.
That it's an absolutely awesome facility. When I worked for the Intermountain and heard the news that project was finally going to actually come to fruition, somebody said that word the wrong way, but anyway, that it was really going to come to life, and being able to watch the demolitions and then putting it all back together with that nice new carpet and everything. Outstanding for the community, outstanding for the football teams, the soccer team, the band, the other community teams that use the facility. Very important. I would shudder to think about what our participation would look like right now in soccer and football, especially if the field was still in the shape that it used to be in.
Tony, we can flat out say right now for a fact we wouldn't be hosting any playoff games.
No, sir.
You know that.
No.
You know that just well as I do. The WVSSSE would not allow it. So it's just what has transpired in a short amount of time has been absolutely nothing but amazing. From community support to Freedom Bank, Barbour County Bank. Back in the day, just really getting behind what the vision was, and it's been a beautiful thing to see. And we're seeing the fruits of their labor to be able to provide the community and the schools with a proper facility. Look at the winning that's happened with the soccer teams, with the band. The band continues to roll. The football team, the list goes on. Really.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, just
good stuff.
Outstanding.
Yeah, absolutely. Last question in that segment I want to ask you before we go on another one. Beyond football, what's another sport at Philip Barbour that's really captured your attention and your pride?
Well, while covering sports, I covered all of them to a degree. But I got to say, it goes without saying for anybody that's paying attention, our volleyball program and the historical dominance that they continue to have has definitely captured my attention, and as well as a lot of other people's. You can't say enough for the consistency, the year after year, and just keeping on, just backfilling those roles. Just a couple of girls graduate, a couple more come up. It's like they just keep they just keep coming out of the woodwork and doing a great job. Really proud of the boys basketball team and the girls basketball team. Coach Johnson, me and him went to school together, and always happy to see Marcus doing well. And, he's made it to the playoffs there, or the state tournament a number of times. I'm not exactly sure how many. And Coach Mauser, great job with the girls team there. I mean, people in Charleston know our name right now. We've been down there. And, hey, then Coach Carpenter, look at what he did with the baseball team last year. And from what I've heard, we got a lot of that firepower coming back. And then, the girls softball team, they've hung in there. I think Coach Rob Simon, during his tenure, did some things there. And that's another part of our facilities, the baseball and the girls softball field. Both of them just keep coming along, coaches and boosters just putting in after hours work, in the evenings, weekends, off season, out there picking up this, picking up that. I mean, it takes a village, so it's not just all about practice and game days. It takes a lot of work to keep those facilities up.
100%, man. You're exactly right. All right, brother. Let's roll into some fun stuff here. All right. I'm going to ask you a few questions here, and then we'll wrap this bad boy up. But if you could suit up for one more game, who would you want as your quarterback?
Curtis Bach is number 19. I said number 19, Curtis Botkins.
I like it. I kind of thought that might be yours. We're a little biased. We went to school with him, still a good friend of ours, but I think Curtis is one of the best to ever play down there, to be honest with you.
Absolutely.
He
heck
could
of an athlete.
He could do it all. He could do it all. Who was the funniest teammate on that 91 squad?
I've put a lot of thought into that. It's really that is a tough one. I got to say, looking back, and then if you know him these days, I can definitely back this answer up. And I'm going to pick one of the seniors, not one of my classmates, but I'm going to say Mike DeLauder. I mean, you talk about somebody can make you laugh.
Well, he still does to this day, and I'd agree with you on that one too. I mean, he's a wild man. We love him. Yeah, I agree with you, man.
Yeah.
What's your favorite Colts tradition, past or present?
I got to say, I'm assuming they still do this. I'm sure they do, but when I played on homecoming night, when alumni or parents and fans, whoever chose to, would come on the field and make a tunnel for you, and you'd see some of the older players, guys graduate, they'd come back wearing their jerseys and standing there clapping for you. Just seeing the community, recognize kids on a special night. I'd say that one was mine back when I played. I loved that.
I sure remember that. Absolutely. All right, man. Here's a lightning round for you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite pregame meal?
Oh my, that one wasn't on the list, but I can tell you, my favorite pregame meal was one time we were up at Philip Inn, and Elliot Tenney was the owner at the time, and we were back there in that section that they can pull the curtain back on, and he fed us something that was affordable, some spaghetti and salad and bread and things like that, and I couldn't tell you who the road team was we were going to play, but Elliot came back there and he pulled that curtain back, and I can't say exactly what he said, but Coach Hicks went up there and said, "Hey, everybody, let's thank Elliot for the meal," and we all clapped. And Elliot said, "Boys, it's just spaghetti. I don't care about that, but you just better go over there and kick there," and just so that was my favorite.
I love it. Good stuff. All right, man. Best hype song from 1990s that you guys got cranked to?
It's got to be a tie between Metallica's Enter Sandman or Guns N' Roses' Welcome to the Jungle.
Yeah. Still going strong to this day.
I believe it. Yeah.
These kids, man, I mean, we were right in the middle of it. We didn't even know it, Good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, man. Who would win a 40-yard dash today between you and Coach Maley?
Well, Nick would have the edge on me as far as youth and probably a better set of lungs, but I'd say it'd come down to which one of us didn't pull hammy first.
Well, we could maybe make it a 20-yard dash. How about that?
There we go. I might have a chance then.
All right, man. Last question for this evening. What's the craziest? And I'm going to preface this by saying I've asked the kids this, when I'm interviewing them and the coaches and whatnot, but I want to ask you this too. What's the craziest thing that you ever heard or saw during your playing days at practice or at a game?
Well, I put a lot of thought into this one. I could choose a number of different things that happen in games and practices sometimes, but this one here's one for the books. It's a Monday. We're in the field house watching film, on our little 24-inch TV screen and the VCR tape there, and everybody huddled around it. And I graduated with a guy named Joe Kelly, and something had happened on the film that made Joe say something, out of line or laugh or something. I don't know. And so Coach Hicks got mad and told Joe, he said, "You just go outside and run. And, go hit the track and run." So we just keep on watching film. Next thing you know, you can hear the noises. You can hear the roof, the tin roof getting hit. And all of a sudden, Ron Harsh looks over at Hicks and he goes, "Mike, is Joe still out there?" And they open up the door to the locker room. It's a thunder and a lightning and everything else. And Joe didn't have enough sense to just come on back. And said the coaches had to go out and get him out of a lightning storm. Crazy.
Well, hey, hats off to him for listening, right?
Yep. He took his punishment well.
That's the way it was back in the day when we played. You did what the coaches told you to do, and you didn't ask questions.
Yes, sir. Yep.
And especially with Coach Hicks. I played for him in middle school, and I remember that well. So, yes, sir. That's a good – I like it. I love it, actually. I love it. Tony, I can't thank you enough, brother, for hanging out with us this evening. I know you and I have been talking about doing this for a while, and the timing just was right. It was right to do it now, and I really appreciate you. I appreciate your passion and what you give to the kids, and just, I think we all do, and we just wanted to tell you that. Thank you, man.
All right, Brian, thanks for having me, and let's go Colts. Let's get a win over South Harrison.
Absolutely. This is going to wrap up a special edition of the Colts Corral. Huge thanks again to Tony Baisi, a good friend of mine from a long time ago, for sharing his memories, passion, and humor with us. I would ask everybody to like, subscribe, and share this video to celebrate Colts history and support Philip Barbour Athletics. Until next time, go Colts.